Hey all, coming at you live from the Matt Cave. Ha ha ha. This is the show. Got our little running gag about how it's, the taxation is theft show, and if you understand acronyms, you can see why it appeals to me. Uh, anyway, get this a little better here. I don't think there's anything that I can do that would make it 100%. So, just to get it out of the way, help support the show. Got a couple of websites that would definitely do that, provide money for making improvements, eventually getting a producer. And I know I'm already talking to somebody about that, but there's some difficulties with some of the sites with adding people on as extras, like moderators, things like that. So anyway, if you can please visit my Patreon site, patreon.com/Matthew Wood, or at my Thrive Life, which would be Matthew Wood, thrivelife.com/Backwoods Survival. Helps the show out, and we'll be able to make improvements, things like that, spice things up. Well, as promised, I've had a lot of this crossing my feed today, and even while I'm at work, in between calls, catching up on news, things like that. And this it's a nail-biting, knockdown, drag-out fight. And people on either side they have their opinions. And of course, I've got mine, which I will let you in on. And nobody wants to yield any ground on this. And that, of course, is the fact that people have suddenly found out that Natalie Imbruglia did a cover of Torn and it's not an original song. Just kidding. Just kidding. If you fell for that one, it is, of course, having to do with what's going on down in Texas. And the thing that has everybody's panties in a twist has to do with the topic of gouging. My personal opinion on people taking things down there, I don't agree with the anti-gouging laws. And there'll be more about that as we go along. But if for some reason you don't know what gouging is, that's when you go into a situation like a disaster situation where people need things like water, food, generators, shelter, and you raise your prices. They were here, now they're way up here. Is it a nice thing to do? A Christian thing to do? Probably not. And I will give you that. It is a rather, for the most part, we can discuss what morals are day in and day out, and nobody will ever agree. It's probably not the nice thing to do. However, if you delve a little deeper into the topic, barring the fact that, let's just throw what's moral and nice to do. Let's put that off to the side right now. Let's take a look at what happens in these situations if you don't have these gougers coming in. You have finite supplies, very finite supplies, because even in this case where they knew the hurricane was coming, you can only get so much in that won't spoil. I'm not talking about water, obviously, but food. And even the things that won't spoil, like water or generators or hotels providing accommodations. Well, that's another topic. Move on to that in a minute. But like generators, food, shelter, clothing, emergency supplies that people will be able to take home with them and hopefully be able to survive, for lack of a better word. Your average grocery store in a non-emergency situation, and I'm even talking about your big super centers like Costco and Walmart and Sam's Club and BJ's, and I know there are others out there, Kroger and Meijer, and whatever your local regional major grocery store is. Your average one during a non-emergency situation, believe it or not, only has about 3 days worth of product, perishable product. In some cases, non-perishable product, because they obviously storage fees are ridiculous for keeping clothes and other things on your shelves that aren't selling. But perishables in particular, they have a 3-day supply for the area that they're in, so that it won't spoil, so that it will have so it'll be sold within the time frame that they're used to having people come and buy it. That's for their bottom line. Even during an emergency situation, you're lucky if they have the storage space, not the floor space, but the storage space, refrigerator space, and all that stuff, to maybe double that. Maybe. Okay? Even with their warehouses are usually not even in the same state. They ship it in refrigerated containers to the locations to stock them up. Now, when that emergency hits, that food and that water and everything else there, you have literal food riots. I mean, throw decency and acting like a civilized human being completely out the window. It's every man for themselves in there. You may as well be watching one of those riots where people are looting and stealing everything, because people are in there, every man for themselves, grabbing everything they can, whether it's they think they will reasonably need that amount of whatever it is. They will grab cases of water. They will grab armloads of frozen food or non-perishable food. They'll go to the canned goods and whatever. They will fill up their carts like an asteroid was about to hit the Earth, and they're planning to go hide in a cave. Now, every disaster is different. and people need to have some of the, have these things, but they're going in there and grabbing everything, regardless of their actual need, what they might actually already have at home, what they've planned for. If they happen to be like, well, if they're preppers, they're probably not going to worry too much about this. But you do have communities that will get together and say, okay, when an emergency hits, you're going to get this, you're going to get this, you're going to get this, and they might pool their supplies. But even in that situation, they're grabbing everything. And the shelves go bare. That 6-day supply is gone. Now, enter the gougers. Okay, we'll use that term as much as I disagree with it. Enter the gougers. They come in to these towns with stuff from out of state, from out of country, from wherever, from the next town over, just wherever that town and community is completely depleted of. And you've got people screaming in the streets, I couldn't make it to the store. They were all, everything was gone. And this was when the stores weren't jacking up their prices. Okay. All these people have cleared the shelves before, as a general rule, before the prices go up. And not to mention these major superstores, they've got an image to uphold. And so they are pretty good about sticking within the laws, the anti-gouging laws. So these gougers come in and they hear the cries and, okay, capitalism is at work here, free market, that sort of a thing. It's not a bad thing because people are willing to pay whatever it takes at that point to just find anything, whether it's just a can of stew, a bottle of water, gallon of milk. And these people will come into the disaster areas where there's flooding, there's debris everywhere. Because of the panic situation, you've got desperate people who might very well shoot these people just to get what they've got. And they come in with the stuff that these people need. Yes, they've jacked up the prices, but they are taking a risk to go there. And I know that everybody would hope that these people that are coming in are all volunteers and just out of the goodness of their hearts that they would come in and donate all this stuff, or at least sell it at the prices that is the normal going rate. But they had to get there. They had to take the risk. They had to leave their families. They had to go and buy the stuff and transport it and get what these people wanted and needed in their area because there's nothing left. Is that a horrible thing? Don't they deserve some sort of reward for their efforts? I've heard a lot of people say that all they're doing is just making profit. They're evil people. But if everything is gone because people have come in and cleaned it out, and these guys come in and suddenly you've got stuff. Now let's go to some of these stores, these quickie marts, your gas and sips, whatever you call them, that are jacking up gas prices, and you're seeing signs all over the internet, or posts all over the internet of signs where they're charging upwards of $50 for a case of water. Could they be doing it just out of the greed of their hearts? Sure. I won't deny it. But if you come across a store that is selling water, let's just use water because that's the primary one that everybody seems to be complaining about. They would normally sell that water, bottle this size, for about $1 each. And you're one of these people in the disaster area coming across, where they would sell a case of those for $10 normally, 15, whatever. Going to vary by geographical location. The first ones there are going to clean it out, just like I was talking about the Walmarts and the regular grocery stores, because it's cheap. They have no reason to economize. None. I'm in desperate straits. I'm going to buy all this that I can find if it's cheap. But if it's not, you come across that same pallet and they're selling it for $30 a pallet, or $30 a case, or $50 a case, or heaven forbid you've got some guy who's just hit the motherlode vein of desperation and he's charging $100 per case. Are you going to buy everything he's got? No. No, you're not. You're going to buy what you need, and there will be more left for everybody else, or at least until they manage to sell those bottles of water at those inflated prices. So the first people in line are not going to be able to clean them out. They could if they want to break the bank, but when those prices are that high, you start thinking about, what do I really need to survive? If I spend all my money here, I'm not going to be able to go down the street to another gouger probably to buy that gallon of milk, or that generator that I need so desperately so I can refrigerate all my stuff, or whatever else. You will actually budget more when you're dealing with the free market. Call it evil if you want, call it greedy. But who's being more greedy here? The people that go out of their way, yeah, they're doing it to make a buck, but go out of their way to go and provide these things, or the people that are shouting at them and deriding them and wanting to crucify them for not all but giving it away. That's socialism, folks. That's why Venezuela is a pit, because the government came in and fixed prices. They told the stores exactly what they could charge and no more. And their shelves are barren. You've got people that are eating out of the garbage down there just to find a candy wrapper that they can lick for a little bit of sugar. You've got people down there that are hanging around the hotels that are down there, and why anybody would want to visit there now, I can't understand, unless they're reporters that are maybe documenting what's going on. You've got people that are hanging around hotels, digging through the trash, eating scraps. And as if that weren't bad enough, they're killing their pets just for a little meat. They're invading the zoo to do the same thing they just did to their pets, just for a little food. And why is this? Because the government told all the businesses what they could charge and nothing more, because they're a socialist country. And it is damn near impossible for any sort of humanitarian effort to get out there. And when they do, you should see the films of this stuff. It's like people trying to get on the last boat to get away from a zombie apocalypse. They're stampeding towards any trucks that come in the area that they even think have food on them. You think you're going to be able to ration that? Hell no. Now, the situation isn't nearly as dire in Texas right now. But if you won't let the people come in, you know, humanitarian efforts are great to bring in, like, I guess Anheuser-Busch has stopped production on a number of their breweries to just provide canned water for the folks. And that's wonderful. It's a wonderfully Christian, humanitarian thing to do. And God, I love the bugs in the Mat Cave here. But not everybody has the will or the incentive. And trust me, Anheuser-Busch has incentive here. It's great PR. They'll sell a hell of a lot of beer because of this, because of the goodwill. So you don't think they're getting something out of this? So if you don't have people that have the wherewithal or the incentive to go down there to make a quick buck, how are you going to get all the supplies you need? You're not. It's a sad fact, but you're just not. There was somebody that made the news during Hurricane Katrina. Just your average Joe kind of guy, and people on the news from Katrina were screaming from the rooftops to anybody that would listen that they needed generators. You could not find a generator anywhere. And if you had a generator, you better damn well have been protecting it with an AR-15 or something, because that thing was not safe. Those were more valuable than a ton of gold. So he went from out of state while he was still, he bought a bunch of generators, I think they said 6 generators. Maybe it was more. But anyway, the amount is not important. But he bought those generators, rented a U-Haul truck, and drove down to sell these generators for about double what they would normally cost. And he was arrested, thrown in jail for a short time, had to pay some fines, and his generators were confiscated. They weren't given to people that need them. They were confiscated, so nobody got them. What good did that do anybody? You're enforcing an unreasonable law in a horrible situation, and nobody benefits. I don't know what else to tell you, folks. I've been through this situation before. I grew up in Hawaii. I've been through a couple of hurricanes. I had a hot dog cart. Well, it wasn't mine. I was working for somebody. And Hurricane Iniki hit. And This was in the middle of Waikiki, and you'd think in the middle of Waikiki, you would have ready access to food because of all the restaurants and hotels. They had no power. None. So we were in our normal spot that we would normally maybe sell, I don't know, maybe 300 or 400 hot dogs a day. Maybe on a good day we would bump it to 5. And so that's the amount of product that we had. Well, we would normally have on hand. Iniki was coming. We made the decision that we would be there because we're a propane hot dog cart, so power wouldn't go down. And in the beginning, we decided to sell things for the normal price. Well, sure enough, the restaurants and hotels, they were still selling their food, and they sold out quick. And that was the food that they could save, because a lot of it went bad because of refrigeration issues. We stayed open. We tried to, service the customers as best we could. And you had people coming up in line buying upwards of 10 hot dogs a piece. Don't know why. I mean, it's not like you're going to, the hot dog's going to go bad. You can only keep that thing for so long. So we had a good, fresh, hot dog, and they were buying them like 10 at a time. So we tried putting a restriction on how many people could buy at a time. We told people they could buy 2. After instituting that policy of where they could only buy 2 hot dogs from us, you had people getting back in line, getting their family to line completely up so they could buy as many of them as possible. We had a line around the block, and people were still, trying to game the system, taking advantage of the fact that we were still selling things at our normal price. So rationing didn't work. We did that for about an hour, and we gave up on it because we kept seeing the same people somehow, whether they were buying their way farther up in the line or whatever it was. We kept seeing the same people. Yeah, we could turn them away. But that doesn't mean that their family member or somebody else that they are paying to get this stuff wouldn't have been getting back in line anyway. So we upped our price. We took the restriction off on the rationing, but we upped our price. And wasn't a huge increase. We went from our normal price of about $1.50 per dog to $5. Suddenly, we weren't seeing the same people. Suddenly, we were managing to see the line start to actually move. Suddenly, we were able to actually feed everybody. Now, during this whole time, we were sending our supply truck to our supplier, who, because of the hurricane, had basically closed up shop. He was going to spend it with his family. He was going to make sure they were okay. I mean, we were on Oahu, so it wasn't as bad as like Kauai. Kauai was a disaster area. I mean, they still have places that haven't recovered from that, and that was almost 30 30 years ago? Anyway, but he decided he was going to hunker down with his family. We called, and no, no. We'll pay you to open up because we have a need. We had to pay a premium. We were the only ones that he opened up for. This was a major supplier of meats. And he wasn't opening up for anybody else. Maybe it was because we were the only ones that offered to pay him a premium, or that we were small potatoes compared to everybody else. But we paid a premium. So yeah, you could say you upped your prices. We had to pay for it too in order to get this food to the people. Now, if we hadn't been able to do that, let's just go back with the rationing that we tried to do. With all these people coming back up in line and things like that, we maybe, with the product that we had, would have been able to serve 500. If you really want to be generous, maybe we could have bumped it to about 800. But those would all have been the same people trying to buy us out. Now with the after we bumped our prices and we're able to, we got the supply chain going because it was worth it for this guy to open for us. Got the supply chain opened. We were able to service in the neighborhood of over 5,000 people in Waikiki. But we were gouging. We were making bank. We were some sort of evil company that was trying to profit off of the desperate situation of people. No, people that were hungry got fed. So say what you will about the gougers and black market, whatever the hell you want to call it. It works. It is capitalism and the free market on bold display of how supply and demand works. Anything less than this, where you're declaring that we should do rationing and make gouging illegal, is communism. Oh, wait a minute. I'm no communist. I'm a free market capitalist. No, you're not if you're screaming at these people to give up what they're able to provide without providing them for the chance to actually make it worth their goddamn time. It's communism. Communism doesn't work. It's the reason why Venezuela is a fucking pit right now. It's the reason why the Soviet Union fell with all those bread lines that were so famous. Government price controls. Government telling you how much you can get. Is that what we really want in America? Sure, I would love, as the peace-loving individualist that I am, I would love nothing better than for there to be enough volunteers and people that have the wherewithal to just go down and give this to people out of the goodness of their hearts. That would be fantastic, but it'll never happen. Even your most diehard volunteer needs more needs a better reason to go than just because there's a disaster and they need to be there. They've got expenses back home with their families, mortgages, rent, water bill, grocery bill, child support, whatever else. They've got bills to pay. Their time is valuable. And unless they've got some sort of incentive to go down there, you'll get a few, but you're not going to get nearly enough. Ever. Ever. And with how much debt our country is in, and boy, did we ever see how well they responded to Katrina and other disasters. Do you really want the government in charge of this? I sure as hell don't. Now, yeah, I can sit up here on my high horse as a prepper and talk about why didn't they could have done this. You know, they're in a hurricane prone area. Why don't they do more to prepare? Why don't they? Especially after seeing these price gougers that they're so upset about. Oh, but I don't have the money. Prepping doesn't take a whole lot of money. Trust me. My bank account is no better than, well, you know, it's nobody's business how much money I've got, but I will certainly fill you in that I sure as hell am not living high on the hog. And all prepping takes on the cheap is buying one or two extra things on your average grocery trip. Just one or two on every trip, and store it away. Put it in a closet. Put it in a room you don't use. I'd say put it in the garage, but you want it in a cool, dry place. But wherever, start stocking up on cans. Get yourself a system with a can roller or something so that you can rotate it and actually eat some of the stuff occasionally. It's not difficult. Tuna fish lasts for a long goddamn time, and you can buy a hell of a lot of cans of that without breaking the bank. Water during a non-emergency situation. You can either buy bottles of water, or some of these survival places or whatever, camping stores will sell big frickin' tanks that you can fill in anticipation of the disaster. There are some that fill your tub, so you've got a liner in there and you're not eating somebody or drinking somebody else's dandruff. There are ways that you can get around this. And if you're upset at the gougers, take some responsibility for yourself. And hey, if you're one of those people that is taking responsibility for yourself and an emergency hits and you have extra, take care of your family first. I'm sorry, that may not sound very Christian. Take care of your family first. And then with the extra, if you're one of those that feels that it should just be the right thing to do to just give the food away, do it. Donate it. You've got the extra then. You prepared. But don't scream at the people that come in and supply you when you didn't prepare. It's your own goddamn fault. It is. I know that's a harsh truth, but it's your own goddamn fault. It is up to each and every one of you to plan. Government ain't shit. They'll come in, they'll disarm everybody, and violate everybody's rights in that respect. And then they will try and ration food and create the only thing that's not creating a food riot in that respect is that they've got men with guns pointed at people, making sure that they don't get violent. And even then, that doesn't always work. Got people shooting back at the National Guard sometimes in these situations. Funny enough, though, I'm not hearing about anybody that's shooting at these gougers that come in because they're downright grateful that somebody is bringing them what they need, even if it is at a elevated price. One last illustration, and I'll let this go, had to do with lodging, the hotel example. It's a famous thing. I'm not sure if Milton Friedman did it. I know a number of economists have referred to it. You're trying to escape a disaster. I know Walter Williams did this one, so I'm kind of borrowing from him. You're trying to escape a disaster. One of the evacuees. You manage to make it out of town, just barely, and there are hotels. Now, you're there with you, your wife, the kids, mother-in-law, whatever. And you get to the hotel, and if it's at the normal price, let's just, price doesn't really, but it's the normal price, you'll look over at your wife and go, let's get a couple of rooms. Let's get 3 rooms. We'll get a room for you and me so we can relax after all this. Get a room for the kids so they can watch all their nonsense on TV. And then, we have to get one for the mother-in-law. We don't want her in the same room with us for whatever reasons. I love my mother-in-law. just throwing that out there. I do. But let's go with stereotypes here. Getting another room for the mother-in-law because you don't want her to be in there. You've taken up 3 rooms in a disaster that you did not need. Now, let's go on to a hotel that actually raises its prices because of this. Oh no, they're making bank. They're an evil corporation. You get there, you take a look at the price, you say, well, you know what? Because of this price, I know the kids want to watch that stuff, but it's going to drive us nuts, so we'll unplug the damn TV, and your mother can go sleep in the bathroom or something, so I don't have to see her. But you took up 1 room. 1. And now there are 2 other rooms for evacuees to use. Simple economics, folks. And I'm tired of people that are bad-mouthing the free market system that is being shown in all its glory. It works. You may not like it, but it works. If you don't like this system, go to China, go to Venezuela. China's not such, they're actually adopting capitalism. Go to Venezuela and see how long you last with the government taking care of you the way that you are asking our government to take care of us right now. That's it. That's all I got to say. Look forward to your comments. And again, please help support the show by visiting my Patreon site. which is www.patreon.com/Matthew_Wood, or visit my Thrive Life site, www.thrivelife.com/backwoods survival. I will get to posting those links eventually and reposting this to Patreon, maybe YouTube, if they don't think that it's too threatening, because they're taking everybody off now that has an opinion. But until next time, take care of each other. The dude abides. And aloha.